it's about carbon. It's all about carbon. We understand what's happening with greenhouse gases. Everybody's talking about carbon, net zero by 2050, all of these goals. But in fact, plastic and climate are so intrinsically connected. Plastic is solid climate crisis. I won't go through all of these stats, but I just wanted to point out packaging obviously gets a really bad rap. We all feel a bit guilty. We all feel a bit personally guilty every time we go shopping or we fill our recycling bins. Recycling is never going to be the answer. It's an absolute chimera. It is a myth that was put out by the fossil fuel industry to enable them to keep pumping plastic out. We'll pretend we can recycle it at the other end. In the US, less than 5% of plastic is recycled. In the UK, less than 9%. We're exporting 60% of our plastic waste, often to countries that have no infrastructure to deal with it. So this is the worst of waste imperialism. We are sending our stuff abroad. We pop it in a little bin. It's invisible to us. We live these wonderful, hermetically sealed, hygienic lives, and we do not know the result of our hyperconsumption. We talk a lot about the oceans. Of course, we are so intrinsically connected and guilty about what we have done to the oceans. But there is up to 23 times as much plastic in our soil as there is in our oceans. And this, of course, is the fundament of where we're growing everything for the future building blocks, the food for our children. And when we talk about plastic, we also have to talk about carbon, because as a country, the plastics industry is the 5th biggest emitter of greenhouse gases. And even if we didn't care about the turtle with the straw up its nose or the carbon emissions, we should think about this. 50 years ago, we ramped up massively production of this incredible material, plastic. And what it enabled us to do was create a culture of single use. It broke the system of take, make, reuse, refill, share, rent, repair, all of those things that were only one generation ago. To take, make, chuck it in the bin for some mythical, magical recycling fairy to fix. And apart from anything else, we need to look at how much we take from the planet. Because we are currently taking almost 2 planets worth of resources every single year. So what we're doing is that we're taking the resources from our children's future, my children's future, your children's future, making stuff with them today, selling it and calling it GDP. So this single-use culture has such far-reaching effects, and plastic was the material that empowered that. I'm going to briefly touch on human health. Because plastic, it's so ubiquitous, we think that perhaps it's on the periodic table, like aluminium or cobalt. No, plastic is a mixture of chemicals, and some of them are toxic. And it will never fit into a circular model, try as we might. God bless the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Some of you will know her from her sailing days and everything she's doing in sustainability, trying to create a circular economy, shoehorning plastic into it. It will never fit. It was never a material that was designed for that. I want to just give you an idea of what circular really means. This is our current circular model. We take things from nature and then we modify them. We chemically modify them. And the best example for me is leather. So when we take leather, which is obviously just skin, we take leather, and instead of, which is obviously designed to go back to nature as a nutrient for the next cycle of growth, the nutrient for growth, what do we do to it? We tan it, we toxify it, heavy chemicals, chromium, dyes, all of these things, so that when it does go back to nature, it's no longer skin that nature can recognize, it's toxic waste. And this is what we do with so many of the materials that we make. So a little glimpse into what I believe is a true circular economy, which of course is simply nature. Nature is, by its very existence, circular. There is no waste in nature. So imagine a new way of making materials, and I'm going to give you some examples in a bit, where we take from nature, we take those nutrients, we borrow them, really. We bake them, we mold them, we shape them into something that is useful for us. But fundamentally, we don't break the chemical backbone so that when they go back to nature, they go back as a nutrient, so nature knows how to recognize them. And if we could do that with materials, we would have no waste. We would have no toxicity, because we're working with nature rather than against her. So a provocative statement for you guys. Imagine if we thought of the plastic crisis not as a crisis, but as a gift. And I like to think of it as this. It's that little tap on the shoulder for all of us. Because there are no plastic deniers out there to say, you've gone down the wrong toxic cul-de-sac. But it's not too late, and if you reimagine materials, if you reimagine circularity, if you really allow it to be this fossil fuel defibrillator that wakes us up to this path that we're on of destruction of our planet home, then it could be considered a gift. It's like the canary in the coal mine. And as an entrepreneur, you'll not be surprised to hear that I think that business is the tool of change, and many of you good people are in that world of business. But what business needs is laws. It needs policies. It needs very, very clear direction from governments, and it's not getting that. It's not getting that for all the reasons that you'll imagine. The fossil fuel industry is unbelievably powerful, and of course plastic is plan B for the fossil fuel industry. So some of the work that we are doing, and this is very current, there is, the United Nations are right now negotiating a global plastics treaty. Does anybody remember the Paris Agreement?
Yeah.
Great. And you remember that took 5 years, and it was all about we have to stick within 1.5 degrees. The problem with that agreement, that all member states said, yes, we all sign up to this, it was voluntary. But what's different about this UN plastics treaty is that it's legally binding. And this is radical. This is one of the first UN treaties that will be legally binding. It's being negotiated right now. We are halfway through the process. In 3 weeks' time, I will be in Ottawa, where one of the negotiation sessions will happen. It is off the rails. The fossil fuel industry has been unbelievably successful. So we are doing all we can to try and get a treaty that actually protects us, that protects our ocean, that protects future generations. But it's not going to be easy. This is a little fraction of what we do at A Plastic Planet. We created this platform I'm going to show you. We work with industry. I am not one of those people that think that we can moan about the problem without trying to come up with solutions. We have to focus on solutions. And then of course we work with the UN and with governments on global policy, because that's the only way that industry can really change. Picture of us. This is us in Nairobi. We just held our first plastic health big event where we launched the Health Scientists Global Plastic Treaty. This is the treaty that the global health scientists would really like to see. This gives you an indication. You've all seen these pictures. When you look at that and you realise how many member states there are, there's 190 member states. There were 143 fossil fuel lobbyists in that room. So it gives you an idea of what we're up against here. This is the treaty that we launched. We're in Washington in 2 weeks' time. Any of you who have offices in Washington that want to come to our event, we'll be talking about solutions, and we'll also be talking about health, in order to really wake up the US government, because they are not rising to the challenge at the negotiating table. And if we don't have America, it's just not going to happen. So this is the treaty signed by all of these guys. And I'm going to come a little bit onto some of the solutions work that we work on. These are molded fibre bottles, entirely nutrient, made out of cellulose, go back to nature. So this is a project. We're working with Kraft Heinz. The EU, God bless them, the EU are incredibly active. They are setting the bar for the rest of the world on action around protecting the environment. The UK are playing catch up now. They're about to ban ketchup sachets, which you can imagine for an organisation like Kraft Heinz, pump out trillions, is big. We've been working with them for 18 months. And we're also working on a big scheme, which is how do you change the system? Why is anything single use? Why can't we actually return our packaging or have our packaging collected from our kitchen from a bin called the returnable bin? Why is there a bin of waste at all? And then we became very aware that everything begins with design. So when we work with industry, you often work with their creative agencies. And there was this massive knowledge gap between the plastic-free materials, the systems of the future, and the creative agencies who are designing everything. Because of course everything in this room, everything we're wearing, everything in the street that we walk down to get here, everything is design. And if we can inspire those 160 million global creatives, if we can ignite, empower, educate them to design differently, imagine what we could achieve, because there will be no waste. So one of the things that we launched last year at World Economic Forum is this, and it is a massive platform. It took us 2 years to design and build. It's hosted on plasticfree.com, and this does exactly that. It connects the creative audience with the solutions of the future. thousands of case studies, proof points, so that we can really help them paint that picture of a brighter future for all of us. Because what we need now is the mavericks. We need the people, the extraordinary thinkers. We need the architects, the engineers of the world to paint that picture. Because, to be honest, I can't think of a time that a banker has changed the way that we live. It's always come from those mavericks, the creatives, the designers, and they're the ones that we really need to engage. Little snapshot of what we do there, lots of case studies and everything. Because this phrase, regenerative design, is what you're going to hear a lot more about now. Sustainability is one of my least favourite words. If somebody said to me, Sian, how's your marriage? And I said, it's sustainable. That is not going to rock your world, is it? You're not going to think, oh, I really wish I had a marriage like that. It sounds so cool. No, sustainable is about doggy paddling and the status quo. It's about keeping things as they are right now. It's not good enough. What we need to do now is regenerate nature. So we need to start using this language, not sustainable design, but regenerative design. How can it not be less bad, but how can it be genuinely good? I'm giving you a couple of examples of the materials of the future. So this is a clothing range that is made out of brewed protein. So this is using really the same technology as spider silk, which anyone who knows about spider silk will know it's unbelievably strong. The tensile strength is stronger than steel. But we can actually take protein from plants and we can brew it and we can get these extraordinary qualities. This is one of my most exciting ones, and the guy that invented this is actually coming to Washington, and he's on my solutions panel. And this is the world's first chop it up and eat it sneaker. And to give you an idea, everything that he has made here is a nutrient. So people talk about, oh, it's compostable. Yeah, but there's no system to compost it. So it doesn't matter that it's compostable. Things have to be able to go to nature on their own. And this trainer is one of those. It's only in the US right now. It's the world's first, but there are many others that are now starting to come out. But this rubber base, everything about it, you could literally chop it up and put it into soil and nature will recognize it as a nutrient. To give you an idea of how radical this is, anybody want to make a wild guess how many pairs of trainers we make every year? Give me a pun.
Billions.
25 billion.
25 million? Anybody else?
Billion.
Pairs.
160 billion. 160 billion pairs of trainers. That's what we make every single year. I mean, 30% of them never hit a shop, they go to waste. But every single one of them is, of course, completely unrecyclable. But more than that, when we're talking about carbon, trainers account for 1.4% of our entire global carbon budget. To put that in perspective, because 1.4 sounds quite small, aviation is 2.5%. Everybody feels guilty about taking a flight, and nobody talks about trainers. So that's why for me this is super exciting, because not only is it replacing plastic, it's toxin-free and plastic-free, but it's also low in carbon.
Sian, I was going to say, on the train up here, there was a girl sat behind me on the phone and she was talking about a pair of trainers she'd just bought and they didn't fit her, and she said, oh, I just left them at my dad's and that's it, and can we go shopping when I get there because I need to buy a new pair.
Yeah.
I've got one of them.
Exactly.
And that just kind of run through my head. So,
yeah. Now we know where they are. All right, dads.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just that we're always thinking we'll fix this down the road. That somehow this new incredible future is happening, but we're not going to see it. Somebody else is going to fix it. No, it's available today. So what I want everybody to really be thinking about in this room is there's a lot of talk. And I go to these things like Davos and COP and all of this stuff, and it's just more words, it's just more hot air. We've got to move from think tanks to action tanks. And this is a genuine photograph from the Facebook page of Beacon Rock Golf Course in Oregon. And it's easy for us all to look at this and think how ridiculous. And the title underneath actually said, our members like to finish their round. And the madness of this, because also you think, but is this us? Are we all actually playing golf in Oregon? Are we those very slowly boiling frogs, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere, where we have no idea of the impact that is coming soon with the climate crisis, with the biodiversity crisis? Are we all actually guilty of doing this? Because we have no idea the power that we all have. Everybody in this room can be that wrecking ball of change. This is not about the young generation, it's about us. It's about the generation that made this mess. That's how I feel about this. I am absolutely complicit in this problem. I have 2 sons, they are now hitting 30, and I'm horrified that I have left the mess of the environment for them to fix and not to do anything about it. So I implore all of you, be that wrecking ball of change. And when we're thinking about our legacy, and a lot of us, it's certainly legacy is something that drives me, this is not just what we do for our kids, or even our kids' kids. What we do in the next 8 years is going to impact these huge circle, the 6.7 trillion humans that are as yet unborn, not even dreamt of, not even a speck of stardust yet. We are the generation that are going to impact them like no other. So whenever we think, whenever we act, whatever we're doing in our world of business, whatever you're talking about around the dinner table, I implore you, let's talk about this stuff, because it's really important. And the more we push it under, the less we normalise it, the less we give it oxygen, the slower change will happen. Because we have to remember this, hope is not a theory. We have to have hope. And those materials and everything I've talked to you about, I have massive hope. I'm an eternal optimist. I believe that we can fix this. But we have to act. And hope is an action word. It is not a theory. Thank you.
There's not many trainers in the room, but I think we need to rename our sustainability working group to the Ocean Regeneration.
Regeneration.
Yes. So thank you that you set the global context. Kate, would you like to hone in on something close to that?
Just click on, right?
No.
Oh, you missed the text here.
Technical officer. That's my. There we go.
Is that sustainable? Or regenerative?
Because I'm going to have to change my on-time presentation now, because it's got probably sustainability written.
Oh, I'm
in
so
quite a few
sorry.
times.
We should have talked.
Sorry about that. Am I on a technical issue here?
You can do it.
Close one. I can do it. You think I can do it?
Yeah, that's right.
We believe in you.
Okay. Well.
Up to
this is-
slideshow.
Go to the bottom.
Go to slide.
Right,
Yeah.
the slideshow is there. There it is. Play from start. Yeah.
That's why you got the job.
That's slideshow. There we go.
It's seamless.
Right. Brilliant. Take away.
There we go. Hi everybody. Thanks for inviting me to speak to you all this evening. Some of you I've met before. Some of you may have heard of the Green Blue, and some of you may have not. But this is an opportunity for me to introduce you to the programme, but also tell you a little bit about what we do, and hopefully inspire some of you as well. So my name is Kate Fortnam, and I manage the Green Blue programme. We do have our own website, so after this, if you want to go and explore, please go and have a look. So I'm going to first of all do a bit of an introduction to the Green Blue, tell you about some of our projects and campaigns, some of the resources that you can use as a boating community to actively be more regenerative, and also some of the outreach activities. So it's more, if I had more time, I'd probably delve into some of the top tips and topic areas and explain some of those to you. But this is really just a snapshot about what we do, and hopefully you'll go away and explore a bit more. So in terms of boating, we get to explore some of the most beautiful, amazing places around the world. And that is including here in the UK. And some of these images are just demonstrating to you, the accessibility that we have as a boating community to get out there, and we get to reach these really remote places that maybe nobody else does, and very pristine. So beautiful places abroad, in our own countries, we get into these nooks and crannies. But it's the things above the water, on the water, and below, which are really, really important, and the water itself. We get to also experience some amazing wildlife whilst we're out there. And really, we are visitors to these places. And as a boating community, and for me, myself, I want to know that the sport or the hobby that I love is not going to have a negative impact on that environment, the place where I like to enjoy doing that. And for me, when I go boating, I like to look around, I like that experience. It's important for my health, my enjoyment, and my well-being. And I want to maintain that. So this is where I grew up, in Lyme Regis, and this is really where my passion for the great outdoors, water sports, and wanting to protect it came from. It's a World Heritage coastline. And really my passion for the environment and actually wanting to make a difference did stem from school really. And I was in environmental science classes and my teacher was telling me about climate change and talking about the ozone layer and the hole in it. And I was kind of listening to all this going, I can't believe that human activity is having an impact on this. And there in my head I said to myself, I am going to do something to change this. This is my life journey now. Because this is what I'm passionate about and this is what I enjoy and I want to protect it. So in terms of the boating community, it's ever growing and you can see the numbers of boats that are out there. And when we always look at every small difference makes an impact, well, each individual one of us, collectively you can see here, can have an impact. Does anyone know where this shot was taken from?
Around the island?
Yeah, correct.
We've all been there.
So each day, 1,000 boats, well Cowes Week as well, 1,000 boats a day happen there. And it's really interesting once, the Environmental Agency came into the Royal Yachting Association and they laid out some graphs in meeting in the table and we're talking about sewage pollution. This is going back to 10 years now. And myself and my colleague were looking at these graphs and they were throughout the year and they were showing E. coli bacteria rates because they have to go and measure these at the beaches around the Isle of Wight and in the Solent. And then we were kind of looking at the graphs and it was like the year and then the bacteria and there was 2 peaks. And then we were looking a little bit closer and they were looking at us and me and my colleague were looking at each other and we're like, do we say anything here? I'm not sure, representing the RYA, representing boaters. They're like, do you know what these 2 peaks might be? And we're like, that's around the island and that's Cowes Week. And technically they should have closed the beaches down because the amount of discharge of sewage coming off the yachts. There's no definitive connection, but they showed us several years in a row showing these connections. And that's when they asked us, the RWA, to come up with a campaign, particularly around these events, to tackle sewage discharge. And as we know now, sewage discharge is a big issue, but we feel that the sewage companies are creating a bigger discharge in the boating community, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing things ourselves. And a big motto for me is 2 wrongs do not make a right. Because everyone always comes to me going, well, what about the big container ships and all the anti-fouling they've got on there? Why are you telling me that I need to have an eco-friendly anti-fouling? Well, it's a collective, and just because they're doing it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing it ourselves individually. So what is the Green Blue? It is the environmental outreach programme for the Royal Yachting Association. It was set up nearly 20 years ago now. So it's been around for a long time, and the reason it was developed is because really initially bodies and agencies were coming to the Royal Yachting Association and British Marine, which is the industry membership organisation, saying we've got an issue around recreational boating having an impact on the environment in this area, this area, and this area, for example. What are you as membership organisations going to do to change behaviour? Because if not, we're going to have to bring in legislation, we're going to have to bring in restrictions. And of course the RWA and British Marine, oh, hold on, we don't want our members paying any more money and we don't want this. And so how are we going to tackle this? And we have to give boaters the opportunity to change their behaviour on their own before you bring in legislation. So the Green Blue was created. And over time, we've seen masses of changes, and especially in the last 5 years, we used to go out and try and encourage behaviour change. We would have to go to the boating community. Whereas in recent years, we've seen a huge demand and increase of the boating community coming to us, wanting to make a difference, wanting more information and to take action. And that is really, really positive. And I think it stems from that connection we have. And David Attenborough, Blue Planet, talking about the plastics, that was a real sort of stepping stone to get it on people's agenda. You're concerned about plastics, or let's look at other things we might be doing in our activity. We've got Mike Golding here. Some of you may be familiar with Mike. He was our ambassador really since 2009, and then recently we made him our patron, and he has been a massive support. Dee Kafari was our ambassador in the early days as well, and now she's ambassador for so many different things. We've kind of focused on Mike as our kind of key person. But he's great, comes and supports us at Southampton Boat Show, delivering awards for our accreditations and also talks as well. So our vision at the Green Blue is an environmentally sustainable recreational boating community enabling us to enjoy our waters whilst protecting and enhancing them, not only for nature but for us as people. Sometimes we look at environmentalists and think you're just looking at the environment and that's all you want to protect. Actually, we're probably quite human-centric, because the whole reason we want to protect that is for us to exist, to carry on existing and have a good quality of life. So actually, we're kind of more human-orientated in a lot of ways. Our mission is to try and inspire, so that's inspire the boating community to want to take action, inform the boating community, give you enough information about what are the impacts that we're having as boaters, and then enabling. And actually, the middle one was very much in the early days of the Green Blue, trying to get information out there, tell people what the issues are. And now the focus is on enabling. People want to know how. I understand the issue, what can I now do? Give me the tools. Give me, that step forward. And so that's what we're really focusing on. We do lots of campaigns and projects. I don't have all night to be able to explain all those to you, but I'm just going to give you a snapshot of some of those. So in terms of our campaigns, these from the Royal Yachting Association are our key areas, and this is very much driven by scientific knowledge. So as you were saying, Sian, earlier, climate change, yes, it is one of the bigger ones here at the moment because it has an impact on multiple different areas. And when we're looking at climate change, in terms of the boating sector, we're looking at alternative propulsion, so that's electric propulsion, outboards, inboards, encouraging more infrastructure around that. But actually, to be fair, marinas have electric points on all the pontoons and the infrastructure is already there, and we're actually ahead in terms of electric vehicles. So there's this kind of myth around, oh, we need to do all this. Actually, it's there. And if you're not wanting a 30-minute charge of your powerboat and then bombing it off again and coming back in, you charge it overnight and it's ready for the next day. Same you would do with your car overnight. And most of us, and chatting to some of us here, if you've got your boat down in the Solent, you go down for the weekend. You've got your whole boat on charge for the whole entire week there. And there's actual programs looking at how can we then take the energy out of boats that have solar panels and wind, putting them into battery charge and selling it back to the grid to make money. So there's real good opportunity here. We don't just look at the boats, we look at our sailing clubs and centres as well, and looking at energy efficiency, insulation, solar panels at the clubs. And then our next big issue is biodiversity. And the main areas we look at there is invasive species prevention, and that's the introduction of non-native species into the UK, but around our waters, on the hull of our vessels and our equipment. And we've worked with the government for a long time now on their campaign called Check, Clean, Dry. Check your vessel for biofouling, clean it, and make sure it's as dry as possible. A little bit more tricky when you've got a yacht and it's in the water a lot of the time, but there are things you can do, like keeping your ropes out of the water, your fenders, and yes, having good anti-fouling. It has its pros and cons, but it does help prevent that spread. We also focus a lot around, at the moment, seabed habitat protection, and that's looking at sustainable anchoring and mooring systems, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this evening. Boating around wildlife, so that's when we're out on the water, minimising disturbance. And then water quality, of course. I already talked to you about the sewage discharge. When you've got boating, you've got oil and fuel, you've got sewage discharge, or black water as we call it, cleaning products that we use on board, anti-fouling. There's a whole array of things. And some people may turn around and go, oh, sailing's really sustainable, it uses the wind. Yeah, that's one aspect of it, but some boats don't use sails. And if you've got an engine on board, which you might do if you've got a sail yacht anyway, there's all these other aspects. But this is what I found really interesting about the boating sector, is there's so many things that we can look at and make improvements. When we look at other sporting sectors that we're on associations with, they're sort of just looking at kit. They might be looking at their rackets or their ball and how that's done. But on a kind of event side, they're looking at stadiums, sailing. It's a little bit different. We're out on the water. We don't have loads of fans and spectators, but we do have all these things that we can look at. Another big area at the moment is waste to recycling. So it ties in really nicely with what Sian was saying there. And we've got a big thing happening at the moment around end of life of boats. So you might have gone down your estuary, local waters, and seen boats abandoned, even on a mooring or just on the side. And we're suddenly seeing an increase now because a lot of boats were developed in the 1960s and they've actually lasted pretty long. but now they've come to the end of their life and there's no way of recycling them. In the UK, we have 4 boat breakers, I think 5 now across the whole UK. That's somewhere where you can take your boat to have it broken down, the metal stripped off, that can be recycled, the rest of it cut up, landfill. And you have to pay for that. So most people at the end of life of a boat are probably the least likely to afford it, and they just dump it, or they leave it in their back garden. So we've got a big issue around this, and the other thing is equipment. The sailing jackets we wear, the sails on our boats, the ropes. But there's good things happening, and there is movement going on at the moment, which is really exciting. So, in terms of campaigns, one of the ways we try and, there's these big issues here, and when you're an individual boater, it can seem quite, okay, where do I start here? But there are simple environmental best practices that any boat user can adopt, because it's purely about your behaviour change. It's not whether you can afford the latest environmentally friendly anti-fouling or recycled sailcloth or a boat with an electric engine already built in, that kind of thing. So we created the Green Blue Boating Pledge, and what we're trying to do is encourage as many boat users as possible to take this pledge. So what I want you to do is get your mobile phones out, get your mobile phones onto camera now, and there's a QR code on the screen here. I just want you to hover your camera over that, and you'll get a URL link come up, and I want you to click on that so you've got it on there. And later on, I'd love you to be able to make your pledge, because by doing this, we can understand how many boat users out there are passionate about the environment. We can use those boat users as inspirational ambassadors, and some of them we've got here. So we've got Deep Fire, an old ambassador who's made the pledge, various people across the UK, and it's been really, really successful at the moment. Those numbers as well, it was really more a kind of boat users were asking us, is there a badge of honour we can wear to say we've made the pledge? Is there a flag we can put on our boat to say, we're passionate about the environment and we want to protect it? We looked at flags, not the most sustainable, and it costs a lot of money, and as a non-profit, we couldn't buy all these flags to then give out to loads of people. So we came up with this metal badge, which can be recycled. It's something you can pin on anything, and it will start a discussion with other boat users. So what is that you're wearing? Oh, well, it's the pledge, and it's about, it's promoting that. A side effect of this is we then realise, actually, by getting all these numbers, we can go to industry and manufacturers and say, look, this is the number of people or boaters who want to do the right thing. They want to abide by this pledge. They want to respect voluntary anchor zones. They want to reduce, reuse, repair. You need to provide them with the products and services to enable them to do that, and this is your demand. And it's that generating. So if you can make the pledge, fantastic, and you can opt in to receive a badge if you want to. So now I'm going to tell you about one of our projects we're involved in. It's a really exciting project. It's actually coming towards the end of it, but it's been running for 5 years. It's called the EU Life Remedies Project. And it's a project between all of these organisations at the bottom, but it's led by Natural England. And it's a project aiming to restore and protect seagrass or seabed habitats in 5 sites across the UK. So over the last 5 years, our role as part of the RYA and the Green Blue is to raise awareness of these important habitats and provide boaters with the knowledge of doing their anchoring more sustainably and their mooring. And what do I mean by that? So here you can see we've got a yacht on the water and we've got seagrass. And this picture is taken in the UK. And this is down in Cornwall. So one of our sites is the Solent Maritime. So where a lot of you guys might sail, there is seagrass across the Solent. So it's really, really exciting. Plymouth Sound, Falmouth and Halford, Isles of Scilly has the best seagrass in the UK. And the light can penetrate down to 10 metres there. So you've got huge amounts of seagrass, and the seagrass is a lot taller as well. In the rest of the UK, you're probably going to find seagrass at 5 metre depth. So if you're out looking at your charts and your contour lines, as a rule of thumb, anchor 5 metres outside the 5 metre anchor outside the 5 metre contour line. Why is it 5 metres in the rest of the UK and not in the Isles of Scilly? Can anyone think of the reason for that?
Runoff pollution.
Light pollution.
Not light pollution itself, but the runoff, the sediment is blocking the light from penetrating through the water column as far. So it's not just boating that's having an impact, it is other things, but this particular project's looking at purely recreational activity. So that might be dog walkers going along the beach for where seagrass when the tide goes out, people walking along, bait diggers, but it has been shown that unfortunately anchoring and swing moorings are creating the biggest impact. I'm going to show you a little video just to explain to you what an advanced mooring system is and the technology that we're using to try and help protect the seabed. I'm hoping this is going to work. Is there sound? Is there sound? Or is it on your... I thought we were going to have a big sound system. Right? So you might hear it, you might not. I'm hoping there's sometimes. Yeah.
Our coastlines are enjoyed by millions of boaters every year, but with these numbers only set to grow, some of our fragile marine ecosystems are increasingly under threat. Traditional swing moorings can damage seabed habitats, like seagrass and mearl beds, that provide homes for marine wildlife, support coastal economies, and play a vital role in carbon storage and the fight against climate change. In these traditional moorings, a chain with a floating buoy at one end attaches to an anchor block on the seabed. As the tide and wind changes, sections of the chain can scour the seabed, causing damage. With advanced mooring systems, or AMS, the buoy on the surface is attached either through a highly durable elastic riser or a chain riser with a series of floats, stopping contact between the riser and the seabed. Additionally, the traditional anchor block, which can move in strong weather, can be exchanged for a helical screw anchor, carefully screwed into the seabed. AMS are reliable, insurable, and take up less space than traditional moorings. Having been used elsewhere in the world for 30 years, AMS are now being trialled across the UK to ensure we preserve and continue to enjoy our wonderful coastline for decades to come. Be part of the solution. To find out more, visit saveourseabed.co.uk.
So that's the project's website there, and that's our campaign slogan, Save Our Seabed. So do go and check it out. We've got some great partners, and I've really enjoyed being part of this project because it's combined Marine Conservation Society, Ocean Conservation Trust. We've all come together, and when we go to Southampton Boat Show and the Green Blue has a stand, we invite all those organisations along to talk to the boat users and to try and help raise awareness. So it's really positive. And it's quite nice to me to hang out with in sort of the traditional environmental type people again as well. So just to give you an idea, it's not just the moorings, it's the anchoring as well. But these images just show you what damage can happen that's out of sight for us as boaters. So this is where an anchor is dragged through a seagrass bed. So when we're boating, we really need to make sure we're using the correct anchor and minimising drag. And if you've been on an RYA course, that's one of the main things, getting the positions. And it was funny when we started the project, we started looking at the RYA's yachting course and what's recommended. So actually everything on here is kind of helping to protect the environment as well, so that's pretty good. Trying to prevent that drag. Okay, yes, we're thinking about the security of our vessel, but it has another positive impact. The chain itself here, like it said in the film, it will rub on the seabed, and of course we know that the chain helps to keep that anchor down and prevent it from lifting up and pulling out. And also on the mooring system, we have that heavy chain as a dampening effect. So when the pressure's on the bow of the boat, it doesn't rip the cleats out. So when we were designing and working with manufacturers to come up with a solution, how do we replace that chain but have that dampening effect? And that elastic riser takes that tension off the cleats of the boat, but still allows that sort of dampening effect to happen. Here, this is a mooring. This is down off an estuary in Plymouth. So you can see here where the chain has rubbed in the middle of the seagrass bed, and you get these kind of halos in these dead areas. If you go on Google Earth and you go to St Mary's in the Isles of Scilly, because the Isles of Scilly is the only place that has clear enough water that you can actually see the seabed on Google Earth. But you'll see little rings around each of the moorings, and all the dark patches is seagrass. So it just really highlights exactly how these things are impacting. On the right hand side are some of the solutions that we've been looking at. So in the video, this is what a helical screw looks like in real life. Anyone been to Studland Bay? A nice little visit, beautiful place. Yeah, so if you've been out on your boat, you might have dropped your anchor there, stopped off for a lunch break, or if the wind's up or a storm, it's a good resting point coming up from the southwest, or vice versa. There is a big seagrass area bed there, and the RYA's been doing huge amounts of work with various organisations, including the local sailing clubs and marinas, to try and find solutions to help protect it. Because what they were going to do is ban boaters from anchoring in these sites. And the RYA, of course, was like, oh, hold on a minute. The boaters need to get in there for safety reasons. This is an important stop-off point. So we said, can we have voluntary anchor zones that can be marked out? And this is an example of a marker point, which marks out the boundary of a voluntary anchor zone. So as a boater, when you come up, you can see clearly, okay, I need to anchor outside. But if you need to go in, you can, for safety reasons. The other thing we were looking at there is also making sure that there's an alternative to anchoring, and that's where putting in advanced mooring systems has been really useful. And Boatfolk Marinas put in 11, so we've already got 11 in there, and there's now been a partnership developed in Studland Bay, and they managed to get funding now, and we're going to have up to 100 advanced mooring systems in this site. And some of them are going to be for 5-ton vessels and 10-ton vessels. And this way it means that us as boaters can still access these beautiful places that we like to go for, and for safety reasons, and not be banned from them, but also making sure we're having minimal impact on the seabed, so it's a win-win situation. So a lot of work's gone in there from our team and various other organisations on that. Other things that we're doing in part of the project, we're doing a lot of education. So over the last 5 years, I've been out delivering talks like this at sailing clubs, being on main stages, at boat shows, trying to spread the word and help boaters understand why we're trying to protect these habitats and what they can do. But in the early days, what was the first thing that boaters said? Like, oh my God, we didn't realise there was seagrass underneath, the water in British waters. Yes, we'll anchor outside of them. Yes, absolutely. And then it was kind of like, but where the hell are they? How do we know? So I've been doing a lot of work with the navigation software companies that deal with electronic charts, and government bodies, NGOs that are doing the surveys of where these seagrass beds are, collating that data, and then at the moment I'm trying to connect those chart providers with that data so they can put it on to their charts, but make sure there's consistency in the symbolism and the colours. So Savvy Navi have already put seagrass on their app, and they started to put advanced mooring systems in as well, so people know where they are. But I said we need consistency, because if you're chartering a vessel, you might be using Ray Marine 1 minute, Navionics another, and there needs to be that consistency there. So that's what our role's doing, is pulling that together. These are signs that we are putting up at marinas. This is down in Plymouth, and these are other projects. So we've got Amelia here from the Ocean Conservation Trust National Marine Aquarium. She grows seagrass in the lab down there, and what they're doing in the project is they're going out and replanting seagrass on the seabed. Esther, who's their education lead, so I work with her quite a lot in doing outreach around that. Plymouth Site Natural England lead officer, so working with harbour authorities, bringing everyone together to try and implement and put these things in. In the solar, we're going to have 15 of these signs up across marinas. So if you're down there, look out for them this summer. They're putting in. So essentially, you've got a nautical chart. It will tell you where the seagrass areas are in purple and any voluntary no anchor zones. And this week, literally, a voluntary no anchor zone has been put in at Osborne Bay. So if you've been to Osborne Bay, just off Cowes, there is now a voluntary anchor zone, and you'll see marker buoys out, anchor outside of those. And I think most yachts do. It's more the smaller craft that go in and drop their anchor. That's an issue there. So for you as boat users, I just want to share a couple of the resources that you can take away, but also as a club, and if you're in a sustainability committee here, these are maybe some useful resources that you've already looked at, already looking at and implementing. So the big one is the Green Blues website. Everything I'm talking about now All the resources I'm going to mention are all on there, and it's all freely available. Okay, and that's because the RYA helped to fund that. So we've got guides. So tonight I brought along our sustainable anchoring and mooring guide. So that really condenses all the information in there of what you need to do when you go out on the water. And then this one is our real comprehensive guide. Each page gives you one of our topic areas, what the problem is, and then bullet pointed top tips on what you can do on board your vessel to minimise that. But you've also got the pledge as well, which kind of summarises the key elements. But clubs find this really useful in putting up posters, giving out the guides either digitally or in hard copy to their members. In terms of clubs, because obviously we want to support clubs in making their building more sustainable, their operations, but also communicating to their members. So we developed an environmental self-audit. That's a check. You can go around your club, identify what you're doing well and where you can improve. And if you've got a committee, fantastic, because that's the first part of it. You need a leader, you need a group of people to come together and say, right, what are we doing well? Let's celebrate this and communicate it to the rest of our members. Okay, so I'm hoping you'll get a sustainability page. I'm hoping you'll put it in your newsletters. And even having events like this where you're talking about sustainability and bringing people together is really powerful. Environmental action plans, how you write a policy, and we've got examples. So this is all to help the boating community out there. And the other thing is we're trying to give recognition to those who are doing good things. So we have our single-use plastic-free accreditation for clubs, eliminating single-use plastics, and that's in partnership with the Final Straw Foundation, a charity focusing on plastic pollution as well. We've got the RYA Club of the Year, and I'm hoping this club is going to enter for, I think the entries are in August, around then, and then there's a whole green-blue award category, and you basically just have to outline what your club is doing around sustainability. It gets entered in, and you can possibly get awarded at the RYA Dinghy Show in February. So you come along to the show and you get awarded in the ceremony there. And we're in the middle of developing a sustainability accreditation, which is a little bit more robust, where you have to evidence things that you're doing. But this is about giving giving yourself recognition, it's giving you guidance to follow, but it's also enabling you to communicate out to the wider community, this is what we're doing, we have been accredited, if you want to come and join a sustainable club, or if it's a business, for example, we're doing things sustainably, bring your customers to us, make the right choice. Following on from businesses, we have our business directory, and here we list businesses who are providing more sustainable products and services within the boating community. So it might be electric engines and outboards, clothing made out of recycled polyester or more natural products, ropes made out of recycled plastic bottles, so Marlow ropes do that, sailcloth, and at the moment there is recycled polyester sailcloth, so Elstrom do that, One Sails, I think more sails are looking into it. Cleaning products that are more environmentally friendly, bilge filters. Anyone got a bilge filter on their boat? No? If you don't have one, get one. So if you've got a bilge pump, anything in your bilge, be it oil, be it when you've done DIY work or whatever, and there's fibres in there, could be microplastics, these will filter it out and they fix into the bilge pump line and extract it out. And I think all new boats have this on, installed, but everyone should just have it because it's not that much money, but it has a big impact and it stops those microplastics going into the water as well. Another great tool we've got on the website is our environmental facilities map. And again, this is the enabling. So boaters are like, great, yeah, we want to recycle. I'm an instructor and I go to the RYA instructor conference. Yes, we've been recycling on board, we've got general waste or recycling bin, we get into a marina, there's no recycling or there's no signage, we can't see. So what we try and do on here is pinpoint exactly who has these facilities. It originally started with marinas, but now it's general businesses where you can drop off, for example, end-of-life flares, or drop off old sailcloth for it to be repurposed, for example. And this is a tool that's enabling the boat user. So you want to take action, you go here, you find your local, and then you go and do it. And this will build over time as well. So finally, just a few little photos to show you what we do when we get out and about. So we've got our University Sailing Sustainability Challenge, which we've been running since 2016. And these are university sailing clubs across the UK that enter and they take sustainable action across the year, and we award them at the RYA Dinghy Show. So this is the recent dinghy show in February. So we've got universities, Scotland, Wales, across the board, and they get bronze, silver or gold or platinum. And we are open at the moment looking for a sponsor for our next challenge to enable us to continue running this, because it is fantastic. And it's bringing that younger generation who are inspired by this, and we're basically using them as ambassadors to demonstrate to the rest of the boating community what is possible and what you can do. And in the early days, each university sailing club would appoint a sustainability officer, and they were usually a geography student, environmental science. Now it's legal, it's history, and that totally demonstrates to me that environment is not just for everyone is on board with this now. And that's what I'm finding really fascinating. This is one of our stand areas at the RYA Dinghy Show, focusing on this Save Our Seabed, interacting with young people, VR headsets. Here's the advanced mooring system in real life. These are ones at Studland Bay. So you've got your helical screw, you've got your black elastic riser, floats, and usually obviously this will go up through the water column. But it's just really good for boaters to actually see what these things look like. Doing seagrass activities, learning about the green blue. These are some of the games. Planting seagrass as fast as you can and building an advanced mooring system out of small components. So they have to look at the real one and then try and build it themselves. And then this is at Southampton Boat Show last year, where what we tend to do is try and hold panel discussions. So this one in particular was demonstrating what different organisations and individuals are doing to be more sustainable. And going forwards, we will continue having these panel discussions. And at the Dinghy Show, we had one around recycling of equipment. So there is a company that can fully recycle sailcloth now. So we had a mixture of manufacturers and companies talking to visitors about what they're doing. And that's what we're trying to do, bring in people that are doing great stuff and communicating it out so you know about it. And just the last plug for the pledge. We do have enough badges for you back here at RYA HQ, so please do take a pledge and share it. And I hope the club will share it. I think you have actually shared it out to members, but it's always good having an annual reminder. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks very much. On that penultimate slide, that was me sitting with the Helly Hansen jacket.
Oh, was it? Oh, right, okay.
When we came down, I saw you at the
Evidence.
Exactly. I don't recall giving release rights for that thing. But thank you so much, Sian. You set the importance in a global, bigger context, and Kate, you brought it down to practical terms of what we can do. And just to underline before I open to questions, as a club, we're trying to raise awareness. You had raising awareness on your slides there, but we're also conscious of the ability we have to reach out to other yacht clubs. So we're working with New York Yacht Club of Monaco, and others to try and collaborate, cooperate where we can. So try and punch above our weight, if you like. So, but I'm very conscious of time. So any questions? People open up from the back row.
I've got one for each of you actually. So Kate, where I anchor, which is in the French Polynesia, nobody would anchor.
You're a fair
without
weather
floats.
sailor, are you?
Nobody would anchor without floats.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to buy them, so I've made up my own set. So, you know, if you were to encourage a manufacturer to sell them in the UK, because you do not need your chain on the seabed, you know, destroying the coral or destroying the seabed. So, and then just clip on, you know, you just clip one on every 50 feet or something.
Yeah.
And it works brilliantly. And then I've got a question for you, which is, I invested 10 years ago, it's probably my worst investment, in a friend of mine's business called D2W, Symphony International. And they make a product that causes plastic to biodegrade, properly biodegrade.
I know it well.
And the only country that's made it law is Saudi Arabia.
Jonesy, right.
They're not even recognise the stuff. which is why we've never made any money out of it. But I just wondered if you had any views on that stuff.
As it happens, I do.
I thought you might.
Yeah, no, symphony I know really well, and
Michael Laureate.
yes, and
Very
it's an ingredient that you add to plastic that means it breaks down. It's almost like a self-destruct day. But what it breaks down into is not a good thing. So if you try, which is obviously when you do your due diligence and investment, and they were very, very obscure in the early days. So Peter Thompson, UN Special Envoy for the Oceans, he came to me with a symphony brochure 8 years ago and said, Sian, surely this is the answer. And I had to say to him, no, because I've talked to the marine biologists who will say no, because it breaks down into microplastics and nanoplastics that persist forever. And that's the problem. And that's why you will find oxo-biodegradables, which symphony is one, polymateria is another in the UK, are banned in the EU. They will be banned in the UK. So I'm so sorry about your investment, and you should get your money back.
There is a court case running this.
Right, good, because they will not have told you what it biodegraded into, and when you made your investment, nobody was thinking about
Thanks,
it.
just a couple more questions, perhaps.
I'm afraid I'm going to spoil the party, if you like. I've been responsible over the years for one of the greatest acts of pollution around the world. I've built harbours around the Gulf states since the 67. The Gulf states, the Gulf itself, the water used to circulate every 3 years, going up and down. Now it's 10, 12 years before the top of the water comes out. I've been involved with desalination plants. I'm a past president of the International Desalination Association of Water Use. It's not enough to think what we can do. It's get the others to really do what is necessary to be done.
Well, thank you for sharing.
We hear about Saudi, we hear about the Gulf state, but they're really just doing propaganda.
Yeah.
They're doing nothing. What Saudi is doing and my company is involved in a lot of it.
Yeah.
But really, at the end of the day, we add more pollution than we are solving. So what I'm asking everybody, let's not dream that we are going to solve it here in the UK. We need to extend beyond. You need to think beyond. I admire what you're doing, because in the desalination industry, we need the plastics out of the water.
Yeah.
But there's more to the world than we are doing. I've been involved in Mediterranean, I've been involved in the Red Sea, and my God, the pollution I'm responsible for is beyond belief.
Yeah.
I'll stop there.
It needs to be a global solution. One more question. Just in the middle there, yeah.
So one for both of you, I think, specifically around sailing events and kind of Volvo Ocean Race, One Day Globe, that kind of thing, and also elite sport in general. There's a lot of kind of bad companies sponsoring those. Do you think overall the greenwashing effect of that is positive and that it's spreading a message? Or the effect of these sports and the damage they cause, specifically in sailing, in terms of boats being lost, all the plastic that gets used in that? Do you think overall that's positive or negative?
I can mention two things. So one is we're very involved in Sail GP. Anybody know Sail GP?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we and actually I think I have a lot of respect for Sail GP. If anybody doesn't know them, it's like what are they called? The fast foiling. And so it's very exciting, and they're trying to make it more of a spectator sport, and they go around the world and in the host cities, and they have 2 days of racing, and they have 2 leagues. And one is the Sustainability League, and the other is the Speed League, the Racing League. And you cannot win on speed alone. You also have to have made some kind of positive impact on sustainability. So every single team, Australia, America, the UK, the Ben Ainsley, or everybody is passionate about what impact can they make. So I think as a model, it's the first sport in the world to have a double podium, which I think is incredible. And we've been involved really since the beginning with Sail GP. And one of the things that we've been involved in there is it possible to sail without wearing a plastic bag? Because of course, we think that when you sail, you need your Helly Hansen jacket, which is simply made out of plastic. All these things, we call them technical, they're just plastic. They don't breathe. So we've been working with, anyone know Nathan Outeridge?
Yeah.
And Nathan Outeridge is passionate about this. And we've introduced him to a company in Switzerland who are making the world's first plastic-free, entirely plastic-free sportswear. And he's taken on the biggest challenge of can we use it for sailing? So they are developing a line. Offshore has just launched, is coming, but onshore is just launched in collaboration with SailGP. But I think that's wonderful because for me that is sport for good. And as we know, sport is incredibly powerful and we all follow it and it can be such a catalyst for change. And to see that someone like Naked Outreach and an organisation like SailGP are pioneering plastic-free sportswear for sailors to wear is really incredible. So I think it's really, really great. On the flip side, Ineos. Ineos and the fact he owns Ben Ainsley makes me very, very sad now because he is the biggest plastic manufacturer, one of the biggest in the world now.
Yeah.
Did you want to come in on that?
Yes,
Final
I mean,
word?
we sit on the British Association for Sustainability in Sports, and it's all the big sport, NGBs, big stadiums, and it comes up a lot around the sponsorship. And if you're offered all these millions of pounds to do what you need to do, should you take it if it's a company that goes against your core values, and if sustainability is that, it's difficult. But I think sports are coming, they're going against that now. And if it is a company, they want to be working with them and make sure that they're committing to making changes themselves as part of the sponsorship deal. A lot of the sponsorship is less around the funding now, and it's more about what that company can offer from their own expertise and the products, or if it's logistics, and they kind of get around it that way. But it is definitely coming away from that and trying to find brands that align with the purpose and what you're doing. And I think if sport is powerful enough, it can do that. But if it's lesser, smaller, and you're desperate for money, it is a really hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to say no to a lot of these things. And you've got to do your research because you might take money from somewhere, but they own this, and this, which aren't great. It's like Mars, they have Seed for Change, but then they own Mars and all these other things, so you own a kind of organic range, and they've got totally different.
If I could try and close the loop there, you said you're an optimist and that you think that business can be part of the solution. So the blue economy we're starting to see emerge is starting to perhaps provide solutions beyond the words in the fringes of COP and World Economic Forum. So, but perhaps that's a future talk, the blue economy. We'll come back to that.
That's like
Thank
Sian
you
says,
all for coming. Chris, do you want to say a brief word about, well, firstly, thank you both for We'll just say a few words just about the upcoming programmes.
Very few words, but I do actually want to say thank you to our brilliant speakers. Your passion is phenomenal. I've seen you many times. Kate, your dedication. I can tell you that we have adopted the green blue as our guidelines, our sustainability, our ocean regeneration. And you made me feel a little more guilty when I have our plastic bottles. So anyway, keep up the good work. And I can tell you, I should have said first of all, thank you all for coming.
Yeah. Yes.
And thank you for organising it. Wow. It actually takes a lot of work, which is why I handed this one on to Mark.
And we didn't need the microphones in the end. So
Yeah. Anyway, very quickly, because we are running a bit late. We have another talk coming on the 1st of May. I'd say all the talks are brilliant. This has been another brilliant one. And this is interesting because it's a member of the Thames, a friend of mine from Singapore, who, long story, but he set up a foundation in the remote Anambas Islands to help the locals manage their waste, because they live in huts over the sea, they just throw the waste into the sea. And he had built a lovely resort there that was being polluted. So he set up a foundation and he taught the locals how to manage their waste. I've seen it, I've been there. He has a beautiful resort, by the way, which is probably why I was there. And they do collect their waste and they recycle it. It's incredible. This is a remote Indonesian islands. This has been set up as a sort of project, pilot project for Indonesia. It's now being rolled out across other Indonesian islands. So the Anambas Foundation, they're coming here on the 1st of May to talk about what they've done. Okay? And as I said, it's a member of this club that did that. So 1st of May, please come again. Tell all your friends. Tim is sponsoring that event. I don't know whether we're going to have Indonesian beer this time, who knows? But anyway, see you next time. Thank you all so much for coming.